All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 165th episode of the Grow My DJ Business podcast, brought to you by the Grow My DJ Business Discord, Digital Music Pool, and Ferrari Production Academy. My name is Kareem.
Gary W. here.
Gary, you survived a hurricane. We didn't have our podcast last week. We actually had a guest planned and everything and had to cancel because I think this was the hardest you ever got hit. No?
Yeah, since I've been here, it's definitely the hardest we've been hit. It's I spoke to a lot of friends in the area. Depending on where you were, it was a little different. If you were just even 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, my sister got hit a little different than I did. She's up on more of a hill, like the only hill in the damn area. I sit kind of lower, so I don't know, and I'm in between some taller houses, so it gets kind of deflected off of the housing around me, and I sit back off the golf course a little bit in like a duned area. So I actually was able to go under my lanai and sit and like watch as like it was like 80 to 100 mile an hour gusts.
Yeah, I think the dunes definitely help you and protect your house a bit.
Yeah. So I'm lucky, and I have a lot of heavy palms and vegetation around my enclosure. And nobody knows what an enclosure is. Just most Florida houses have them for, bug purposes and things like that.
Yeah, and gator purposes, I'm sure, as well, and snakes
and all that great stuff. But yeah, so like, I'm pretty protected back there, and even with the heavy palms, that definitely helps. None of my screens got blown out, which is crazy with the winds, but the tornadoes that's the crazy stuff that you forget that happens before hurricanes, or if you haven't really lived through them, that does occur during hurricanes. So, but they said this was the second most ever in like U.S. history, the amount of hurricanes prior to the tornadoes prior to the hurricane. So crazy, but all good here. Sending thoughts out to our buddy Danny, who his house is affected greatly, and Fresh also, and their families. Those are local DJs out in Tampa that are friends of ours. So
yeah, like back-to-back hurricanes for the Tampa St. Pete crew. So shout out to all those guys. Hope everybody's good down there. I know it's going to take a bit to get back to where you guys were, but come back stronger than ever for sure.
Yeah, well, it cooled us off down here, so it's been cool now the last couple of days. So
nice.
Been all right. But in that time, you had a trip to Charlotte.
Yeah, I got to play trio again.
This is
my second time there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd gone out a couple times to hang with Angelo, check out the space, and for breakaway, but this was the second time I was booked there. I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome the first time. I felt even more comfortable this time around, sort of just knowing how I was going to play the room. I think I've grown a lot as a DJ and an artist between the first time and the second time I was there. And, jumping up on the stage and being on the mic and all the production that goes into that was sort of more second nature to me this time around than the first time.
Yeah.
But it was awesome, man. I got to play with UFOso. So Greg came down and played with me like old times, and it was great. He knows how I play, and he got to show off his stuff a little bit and had a great crowd. It was packed in there early. So it was fun, man. It was awesome. Fun to hang with Angelo. Always great to talk to Eric, who's the owner, and got to see some of his new concepts and hear more about them. And actually, we were there the grand opening weekend for his cocktail lounge that just opened. So it was cool to get over there, try some super unique and weird cocktails, but they were great.
Oh, that's kind of how that's the route they've gone there.
Yeah, it's a sort of cocktails all inspired by different cities. So the menu, each page it kind of pays homage to a different city, and there's a cocktail with a twist, right? So like New York is sort of like almost like an old fashioned, but it was definitely like not,
Right.
So it's a cool concept. I think musically it's something always important to him. They're doing more like jazz house.
Yeah.
And Angelo's been making edits with just like popular vocals over the top. So it's like this cool jazz house vibe with vocals that are familiar.
Okay.
So just like everything else Eric does, it's, music focused and a little unique and done the right way. So
nice. All right. That sounds great.
Yeah, man, it was refreshing to just go to a place that, like Trio's the top of the top for me as far as places that I play when it comes to everything.
Yeah.
The the hospitality is better than any other place. Um, you know what I realized this time around? Their entire staff just really fucking loves EDM. They love the music. And when your staff loves the music, like it just creates, they're happy to be there. They're excited to hear DJs. And granted, they're bringing some very big artists through there, but still, like they're excited to hear me play, and they're excited to hear Greg play, and they're also excited when Deadmau5 plays there. But like, it's just a really cool culture of EDM that's sort of happening over there. So
it helps, in any venue when the bartenders are into the music and when they're invested. And, sometimes I think as a DJ, maybe we can lose sight of that, especially as bookers. And like maybe a bartender, gets on like, oh, I didn't really like that DJ that much last night. And obviously when that happens, you have a lot of different opinions happening behind the bar, but at least it shows that they're listening and that they care about it. Right.
yeah.
On the other end of that, when like you don't hear much out of the bartenders and they're just there to show up and do their job, and they might not be into the spectacle of the party. I feel like they could be a great bartender, but that still doesn't add to the party. I know it's not their job, but it's part of the showmanship, especially in a place that's booking DJs that has nightlife that is trying to put on a good party and a good face. I feel like it's something that's overlooked sometimes. We've gone in depth about that in previous episodes, but it helps when the entire staff is really involved in what's happening throughout the night.
Yeah, I agree.
And Eric's places, they all like, he hires really well. He hires people that are passionate about the product that he puts out. And it's easy to be passionate about the product that he puts out because he puts out a good product. So, that's any of the owners or managers out there that are listening to this. Like that's, if you have staff that's not really passionate about what you guys are doing, maybe find out what you can be doing differently to get people invigorated and get your staff really into what's going on. It really helps with getting people back in the door and having repeat customers, which is something that everybody needs to be doing right now. So
yeah, I mean, I think towards our country music forward venue, Wild Moose here in Hoboken in Jersey, the staff there generally all love country music, like, and that's what they play there. And they're getting up on the bar and they're singing and they're dancing and they're enjoying themselves. And that enthusiasm is infectious for the customer,
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to just be for EDM. It could be any party, when you have people that are working an event that they really care about, it just makes such a difference.
Yeah, it does. Big time.
So, normally Gary and I kind of come up with 3 topics that we sort of talk about. I think today we might just dig super deep on one topic because it's something that we've sort of been seeing here in the dance music space for an extended period of time. But I think more recently we're seeing artists really talk about it and make videos about it. And you and I were talking about Bob Sinclair and a video that he posted about him playing a show in Greece. And he was ripping through, a bunch of different subgenres of music, including all of his previous hits. And like nobody was dancing and they were just videoing him. And he was like super defeated after his show.
I know that like in following him and looking through his socials, like he's a melodramatic, like he'll sell it, like, you know what I mean? He's selling it on his TikTok or on his reels or whatever it might be. But I think the message there was legit. I think he really did, he did not enjoy the fact that he just went up there and it was just all cameras the whole time. And then he was like hoping that the cameras would drop so that people would then start to party. So he was testing out all of these different genres. And then he was like, all right, well, I'm trying to catch a vibe in this place and it's just cameras the entire time. And then he's like, I play the biggest songs and still nobody dances, which I'm thinking in my head, like if you're going to play the biggest song, that's when people are going to record. But
right.
but
Right.
it's
Usually
not
on the
like,
intro and then the big songs.
but it's not like those songs. Neither of those came out even within the last 10 years. Those are like 15 years old, those songs.
His hits are old.
They're old. Like those were out when I was in like my prime of clubbing. So like,
yeah. So tell people what the songs are, because we might have brought up Bob Sinclair and people might not even know who that is.
right. So like World Hold On, and the other one was Love Generation, I believe, right?
Yes.
Love Generation was this really infectious song. For those people that don't know, it was this really infectious song when it came out because it started with that like acoustic strum, which was super different. This was pre Avicii, what did he have? Like Hey Brother and the other track, Avicii.
Right. It was one of those songs where people could just hum the melody, and like that happened at his shows kind of thing.
I'll never forget
one of those tracks.
The first time I heard it out was down in Miami, many moons ago, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm going to play this in my set every weekend for the next 2 years, probably." And that is what happened.
Yeah.
And he said he just felt defeated, and like I said, and depressed. Like I said, he was a little melodramatic, but like I think
his socials are actually hilarious, because we dug
great.
a little deeper on his videos. They're really he's shot. They're funny.
Really, but but he makes a great point. Like he wants to, and then in a video 2 weeks later, he said his point was like, I need energy to feed off. I need like energy to feed off of in order to provide the product that I want to put out. Like I need to know where I'm going in the journey in regards to how you react to the music. And if you're not reacting, you're just standing there and you're filming, like how do I know where to go? How do I know what you're into? And it's just such a, it's a little different than like if you're at a festival and you have a set performance, right? This is he's in this space.
Yeah, it's like a day club or a beach club or a nightclub.
Yeah, this is a Mykonos set that he did, and he's like, the girls were beautiful, and the venue was beautiful, and I don't know if it was day or night, but like, he's trying to actually DJ the room, and it's just not happening, because how can you if people are just standing there recording you, and there's literally no reaction. It's wild to me that this is a thing that like you're going to go see somebody perform, and you're not going to move. I find it, even when I go to like a brewery and somebody's playing live music, and if he's just a guy, nobody's really paying attention to him, he's out strumming there playing his guitar, I'll at least make some kind of reaction if I like what I hear, just so he knows that I'm listening.
I always think those moments are so awkward with like the soloist in the bar that like is just playing music, and it's like, oh man, nobody clapped after that song. I feel like I'm gonna clap for him because I feel bad, kind of thing.
I ensure to clap every time, because you know what, you and yeah. we're in that position. You're in that position, right? Like, is anyone actually listening to me? But what that's creating, and what I understand why people do it, it creates an ambiance. It creates a little bit of a vibe in a room that would be otherwise dead, and that's why you have like these day DJs at places like. You have to at least acknowledge that the person's playing music. Like, please, like just acknowledge it. You can't just stand there and record and motionless. It's absolutely crazy to me that it's rude at the end of the day. It's fucking rude. It really is. And I think just people in those situations, DJs in those situations, are fed up because it's rude. Like they're there. They didn't become a DJ to have somebody wave their fucking phone in their face and stand there and record them. I can guarantee you that. Not one DJ became a DJ for that. So I think it's rude. I think it's ridiculously rude, and people got to stop doing it.
Yeah,
like, record for a little bit and then go dance. And then, the next song, I really like it, record for a little bit, then go dance. Just don't stand there the entire time.
It's hard because you're right. As DJs, we constantly talk about reading the room and finding pockets of people that are dancing and whatever. But if you're just looking at a sea of people recording you, it's like, what cues can you take to possibly plan your next few tracks? You're sort of just shooting blindly, and I don't like feeling like that. I know most DJs don't feel that way, and even even if you're not necessarily watching your crowd and if you're going to search for the next track, you can still feel that energy. And if it's positive, dancing, happy energy, or if it's just people that aren't dancing. And like normally for anybody, not dancing is a bad thing, right?
Yeah,
But I think what's happening is just because people aren't dancing at shows doesn't mean they're not having a good time, Like they want to be filming, they want to capture the moment, they want to share it on socials. And I said to you, I think this is this like deeper issue of people just being so addicted to the dopamine of getting those likes and comments and shares. And, that's they're recording it for that, you're there, be in the moment, enjoy the show, enjoy the music, dance if you're having a good time. I know that seems crazy to say, but
tell the story. I a little like not outside of the nightclub, but tell the story about the other night because it's ridiculous.
So I was at the Yankee game on Tuesday, and it's first inning. Like Yankees get out of the top of the first. We come up to bat.
Well, hold on.
What?
20-second timeout. Set it up. What? Because people aren't going to always be listening to this in real time.
So this is the ALCS game 2.
Fucking wild.
The Yankees won the first game, and this is game 2. And yeah, so like the 3 people in front of me literally recorded every single Yankee at bat for like the first 3 innings. Then, they got their food, they got a beer, they like sat down for a little while, and then later in the game, they literally recorded every single play. And I'm like, guys, you're like, why? I just don't understand. What's the point of this? Why? So you can get the Aaron Judge home run captured on video. So you can get the big play by Soto captured. Is that why? I just don't understand. And I think the more that I see it, the more I'm involved in these type of things. And this started at going to shows for me, but now it's when it comes to sports, like, guys, enjoy the moment. Watch the game. You're there. You could watch the game with your 2 eyes, but instead you're watching it through your phone, recording. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
If you're going to consume it in that way, just stay home and watch it.
I get it. You walk into the stadium, you want to get a video, you want to like catch the atmosphere, maybe the introduction. You want to get the last out of the game. Sure, I totally get that. But to be sitting there and recording every at bat, it made no sense. Unless you're a scout, I don't want to. What are we talking about? Like, are you scouting for game 4 for when we go away on the road? Like, what are we doing? My seats weren't that good.
You're right. I think it is. It is that dopamine shot. It is that hope to get likes, to show off a little bit. And we all do it. I'm not going to say that I don't put stuff out that I'm like, oh, like I hope people like this, or like I do it every day. Like I go for a run and put the sunset up and be like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like I wish the people up in Jersey, when they're up there and it's cold, they could see how nice it is here if they want to come down and hang out. Like,
yeah,
it's just like there is always that thing in the back of your mind of like, all right, like I'm posting this, but to do this in like the 3rd inning of a Yankee game after already filming so much, and the same thing at a DJ set after already filming so much, how much more do you need? I think that's the thing that boggles my mind, because whenever I go to anything, I'm definitely taking a picture or a video.
Yeah, of course. You want to capture that moment, of course.
I'm still, we went to, just real quick, like we went to Epcot. I have a bunch of friends in town, so I've been there a couple times this week, but I've been there around like 6:30. I think like 3 times in the last 10 days. And the sunsets have been gorgeous. And I'm like, here I am again, taking a picture of the sunset. I totally know I don't need this. But like, it's just like, I'm self-checking myself, but I'm like, here I am still doing it. What's wrong? Like, and I think that's what's happening at these shows. It's like, even if you self-check yourself, I think some people feel like they still need to get the footage, Yeah. And I just, artists are just starting to get fed up with it because it feels rude.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear more about some of the newer artists that are of this generation, what they think about it, because I think you and I obviously have been around a little while, and,
right.
Bob Sinclair is old, like he's older than us for sure.
Yes.
And I haven't seen a lot of younger, I saw a video from Afrojack. Like he was doing a comparison of one of his shows from 10 years ago and one of his shows recently. And it was the same thing. Like the video of people from 10 years ago, every single person had their hands up and was dancing and having a good time. And then it cut to a 2024 show and it's a sea of phones.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to hear what some of the younger generation thinks about this, but it's not just happening, you know, it's happening all over the place, right? The Kind Music, it's another one. We saw another video of they were playing Move and not one person was dancing, and you know, like just all recording.
The absolute irony of that.
So
is hilarious.
it's just happening like all over the map, all subgenres and genres. I don't know. Man, is it happening at my bass shows? Are we on the rail headbanging or what out here? Let's go.
The non-movement is scary. Like the Kind Music stuff, like that is like very just drum heavy music that like should be moving you, and there's nobody moving. You know, I feel like that's, and we can get into a little bit of where the rabbit hole that Afro House has gone down, but I think the essence of Afro House, like the essence of the last 10 to 12 years of what I've been downloading on Beatport is heavy drum, African inspired music that's supposed to like move your like soul kind of a thing, you know, like what real house music is based off of. And then you see these videos of just people standing there recording it and not moving. It's the complete opposite of what it is inherently supposed to do to you. It's just mind blowing. And then the only guy that's dancing is the DJ. How is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
like,
everybody's got their fucking their head scarves on too tight. Like, go loosen those things up and dance a little
Gary
bit.
W. turned 8. It wasn't me. It wasn't me this time.
Yeah, because I hate when somebody, you know, does something for themselves as a style trend and everybody goes and bites it. Like, get your own fucking style. I know I'm dropping a lot of F-bombs today. Sorry.
I don't know. Isn't that sort of what happens in the industry, in the fashion world? Like people gravitate. I'm a big sneaker guy. Like 3 years ago, if someone said, "Oh, I can't wait to cop these Asics," like I would have laughed in their face, bro. Like, and now everybody listening, not everybody, I'm sure a lot of people now have a pair of Asics that they're wearing.
Yeah.
Like every DJ in the game, you would go out and was wearing Jordan 1s, and now they're not. And like it's just sort of things get popular and less popular. And I think this summer, especially, but like leading into the summer, Afro House was probably one of the most popular subgenres in dance music. And I think I sort of see it going down the same road that Slap House did. And we all know how much I hated Slap House, but it wasn't because the music wasn't good. It was just because everybody started releasing music in the same style. And it was slap a vocal that everybody knows over the top of this same drum beat and the same sounding track. And it's sort of happening with Afro House. And I think once that starts to happen, I don't know, you sort of start to see it go. Like that's always a sign that subgenre is sort of leaving the mainstream or just maybe not going to be as popular as it once was.
So a couple things here.
And the summer's over too. And like, that's a very summer beach day party rooftop.
Yeah, but I think it's even crossed. It's crossed over now into the more, it's not pop by no means, is it? But it's gotten more popular is what I mean. And I was downloading in Beatport yesterday, and I'm like, this is awful. I've never done that. I've always 100% of the time in the Afro House section, I've gone through all top 100 downloads in that genre. I got to like 22 yesterday, and I'm like, I give up. This all sounds exactly the same. And I know that sounds like old man in the room, but I've been a fan of this music forever, since 2002, since the first time I saw Eric Murillo. It was like, and Danny Tenaglia, you know, and Jonathan Peters was big into this back in the late 90s. Like, I've been a fan of this music forever, since they called it jungle. Okay? And this is the first time that I'm just like, I'm absolutely sick of this shit. Because
wasn't it cool? Like, it was tribal for a while too.
Tribal, jungle. Yeah, well, you had to, just as you always have these subgenres that get switched the names. But yes, it was, Tenaglia was playing more tribal. Like
It's
he was
funny
like a
because
tribal
I'll
guy.
create folders based on what people are calling music, and like I had a tribal folder, but that was like
Yeah.
a while ago, and now I call it like, Latin house or drum house or drum inspired music.
I caught like the tail end of jungle. It was like a little deeper, and then tribal was a little more like Congo and like. But anyways, I digress. But like so boring, and it's just you lose originality, and it goes along with the fashion statement. Like don't don't just follow a trend. Like use the trend to your advantage, right? If you're a producer, follow the trend. You want to do Afro House? Absolutely. But it can't sound like every other damn Afro House song. Use the trend to come up with your own sound, right? Like
I
the
think that's great
drums
advice.
and the kicks should sound completely different. They shouldn't sound exactly the same.
I
And
think I think that's
if
great advice. I think another thing just to add on to that would be, like you said, like take what's popular, but if you have a sound or a style of music that you're making or really into, or you see yourself sort of growing into, combine the two, and maybe that helps you create something different from what's put out there. Like you can take stuff that's happening in Afro House and use it to your advantage, but maybe you're like me and you make harder music, and maybe I can make a harder drop, or a more bass house inspired drop with like an Afro House style build. I don't know. I'm just like spitballing, but
But like, look what Zay's doing. Zay's doing a great job of taking what is popular in like Afro style house and Latin house, and he's bringing in other elements of Latin music that aren't usually put into house music.
yeah,
Big
I
shout
love
to
I
Zay
love
because
what he's doing.
I like what he's doing right now. It's really good. It's a little more innovative, and it's thinking outside the box, and it's everything that we're saying to do right now.
Yeah.
Um, watch out for his tracks coming out. I think there's one dropping this week. So
Yeah, tomorrow.
So we'll link it. We'll link it in our show notes.
It's also going to go out if you're on our mailing list. We're sending out a little Get Down New Music Friday mailer tomorrow, so you'll get it in your email as well.
Little plug: if you haven't, if you are not on our mailing list and you want to be, because we have been putting out and releasing all of our DJs production and music there. Just leave drop it in the comments, drop your email in the comments, or hit us up, DM us if you don't want your email out there, obviously. However you want to get in touch with us. But yeah, DM us, email us, and we'll get you on the list. But anyway, sorry.
No, but
that.
I think just to sort of talk more about what you were saying as far as following the trends, I think this goes for anything. This goes for fashion, this goes for sneakers, this goes for music, and you don't want to just be a follower, right? You can enjoy what's popular, you can embrace it, but find a way to put a spin on it, like Zay put a spin on his music, right? Find a way to do something that infuses some of you into how you dress. Maybe you are going to wear the Asics, but maybe you're going to wear a Yankee fitted with it, or whatever the case may be, right? Maybe there's a certain brand that you love that isn't the most popular, and you're going to wear it with something that is super popular and make it your own.
Right. It's the reason why, like, I don't. Ferrari's probably going to kill me for this one, but like, I don't follow that kind of fashion, like the fashion that he follows, because it's so of the moment. And it's the same thing with the music. I'm trying to play this stuff before it gets popular. Then when it gets popular, it gets wiped out of my DJ sets altogether.
Man, you calling Ferrari a hype beast or what?
Come on. Come on. So yeah, it's I try to stay away from this stuff like the plague, because you just sound like everybody else. And it's something that I think more DJs need to pride themselves in a little bit. But that's a personal preference. That doesn't mean you have to do that, right? Like, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, saying that, but like, I think you really do. If there's a sea full of DJs right now, full. And like, if you're just going to play the same Afro shit all the time, like, you're not going to stand out. Since Afro's become popular, I've had 5 different DJs hit me up, be like, "You got any Afro house spots?" I'm like, "Bro, you've been DJing for 2 months. Like, I'm not just throwing you like in a gig."
It's funny because we have a little jot form to get information about DJs who are maybe trying to work with us, and I'll read all of them. And like lately, they all say Afro House, and it's
I
funny.
know
They all do.
but it just goes to show like people are just following trends, and like it's okay to an extent. It's okay to an extent. It cannot define you.
No, but this has happened forever. This has happened forever. And I think these successful people and the people who are able to, grow beyond a trend are the people that stand out, are the people that do something different, the people that go above and beyond.
Yeah.
The people that are just following trends are just going to follow one trend to the next. And it's really hard to create a brand and create a sound when you're doing that.
Yeah. Agreed.
You said something to me. We'll go back to this sort of people not dancing and phones and stuff. Yeah. You had said something to me about how you think that the predominant amount of people are going to house music events, not for the music, but more so for the production and like the overall visual part of it.
It dawned on me that maybe that's why everybody's just standing there recording. They're there for the production value of the show. And maybe the music's just a secondary thing at this point. Whereas, like, before there was a lot of production, the only reason you were showing up to a place was for the music. There was nothing really else. You had some lights and maybe some smoke and a great sound system, right? I feel like that's another, places used to be known for the sound systems. Like fans of, like that was production at one point. You knew the name of the company who made the speakers. And that wasn't just DJs. That was normal. Like the girls I would hang out with, like they were like, oh my God, they got a Phazon system. We got to go to this place. And like people go to places just for sound systems.
I
just
remember hearing that and be like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm sure it's going to be great.
And then like Teneglia's stacks, that party still gets followed around when he pulls the stacks out and he puts them somewhere. So before there was all this production, that was production. So, but now it's such visual production because it needs to be something sellable, something to be creating content, and you're just stimulated constantly with screens. We all are, and it's the way we consume everything at this point. That people are just showing up for the production, or will go along because the production's good. I don't really care about the music too much. Hey, Cream, you want me to go to the show with you? What's the music like? Oh, it's like this. Okay, well, I don't really care about that, but the production looks cool at the show, so I'll go there. Like I know this is, I could be far reaching here, but like I think it's a little more. Maybe it's a little more easy to get people together to go to some of these things because there is great production. I don't know.
I'm going to disagree. And the reason why, I think very rarely, there's very few artists where someone's saying, I'm going to go see this artist because of their production. People are buying tickets to go see DJs because of their music. They want to hear Fisher. They want to hear Crystal Lake. They want to hear Tiesto. They want to go to Brooklyn Mirage to hear Kind music, right? I think the music will always be and is the most important factor in whether or not someone wants to go to a nightclub or to go buy a ticket to go see an artist. I will agree with you in the fact that the production part of it has never been as important as it is right now.
Right.
And I think when you combine music that people know and they want to hear and they want to pay to go listen to with an incredible production and visuals and sound and lighting, it makes people go back. It makes people say, oh, I have to go back to the Mirage because their rounded screens behind the DJ made that Tiesto show so much better than if we just saw him at a festival kind of thing.
Right.
Or even more so, like the Anma visuals, right? The Eric Prydz show. Deadmau5 used to really be heavily ahead of the times when it came to his stage setup and the cube and his visuals that went along with that. I think as we were growing up, the production part of it was just a small aspect and certain artists really focused on it. It's now just part of being an artist. You have to have production and visual and something that goes along with your show that people can video and be memorable and post. Like Loud Luxury, right? Their whole show is based around things that are trending and popular on social media. Like their visuals will be things that are popular. There are certain sounds and songs that become popular. They incorporate that heavily into their show, and that's part of what they do, right? They take it to an extreme in that way. So to just sort of wrap up everything I said, because I said a lot, I think the music will always be the most important. People are going to go to a show because of the artist, because of the music first and foremost, but the production value is something that is essential in 2024, and it's something that maybe will create fans and get people to go back to that particular venue or to go see that artist again.
I like that take. That's a good take. I'm trying to think of DJs that do lower production or have done lower production shows that are amazing and successful. But like in thinking of that, I'm thinking of some of the biggest DJs in the world, and of course people are going to show up and have a good time at it. The one that I just thought of that just happened last weekend was the Black Coffee Under the Bridge event in New York, which looked sick, looked awesome. I heard mixed reviews, but you're going to hear mixed reviews about everything.
Yeah, I heard terrible crowd, but who knows? You know,
I spoke to Chachi. He went.
Terrible crowd.
Chachi said, I spoke to Chachi because he went, and he said it was awesome. He said he had a good time at it, and it was a good show. So, because I had read in the comments like, oh, it was terrible, like the venue sucked and all this stuff, and that's why I hit him up to see how it really was. But like people are going to show up to Black Coffee, and he could play in a shoebox, and people will be there, you know. But like a lot of stuff that like goes down at like Knockdown Center in Brooklyn. Is that Queens? I think it's Queens. That's lower production, and that they always have great parties there, no matter what DJs go through, whether they're a local New York City, bigger New York City local DJ, or a touring DJ, or somebody that's maybe a little less known, but in between those two things. Like those parties always look like people go there to party, to have a good time. That is not to shout out a party that's not, or a place that has parties is not as phone based. The Knockdown Center always is putting on talent that really does well in those environments.
I will say this too, though. Like, you know, we're talking about specific shows and specific videos we've seen of people just not dancing. There are plenty of shows where there are just sea of people dancing, having a good time, and no phones.
Yeah.
I said to you, I just posted a reel on, you know, IG and a TikTok, same video, whatever. But at Trio, literally the whole crowd like bouncing their hands in the air, and there literally you could only see one phone, you know? So that was a great experience. More recently, locally, I've had some shows where it's like pulling teeth trying to get them to dance.
Yeah.
So I think it's just mixed, right? Riordan, a UK artist, posted some video of like Michael Beebe and another artist shows where, again, there was zero phones and everyone was just dancing. So there still are parties that are happening out there and venues that are happening where people are enjoying the music and dancing, but it's sort of mixed out there right now.
You think the less viral DJs are going to have less phones out in the crowd, and people are going to be there because those like people that are in between, like those very in between DJs that are famous enough that like that we all know them as DJs, and then they have a fan base, obviously, but not famous enough to get like 5 million, you know, views on TikTok. Like, do you think that in between? Do you think that's the sweet spot?
Like who? Like Michael Beebe?
Michael Beebe, like exactly who you just said. Like that, like somebody big enough that we really enjoy and we know, but not big enough that like your neighbor would know. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
But I feel like that could be like that's a really good spot to be right now. But I mean, obviously, you want to be the viral guy who's making a ton of money. Like, obviously, that's where we all want to be, right? I'm not saying that's the goal. Should be the middle of the road DJ, producer, whatever.
I think Michael Beebe's fans just care about the music more, kind of thing.
So it's a fan base thing.
I think it's more of a fan base thing.
Okay.
Like kind music is like the hot thing right now. And Black Coffee
Right.
is too. Like everybody's
Right.
trying to go to those shows. Fisher, everybody's trying to go to those shows.
Right.
It's more of like hop on the bandwagon, and maybe it's where Michael Beebe, like, I don't think the average person who doesn't know dance music knows who that is.
Right. It's a fan base thing.
But like I'm playing shows where people are videoing me and I'm like, this is weird and boring. And then I'm playing shows where nobody's videoing me. So it could just be a venue and a crowd thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's weird, but it's definitely gotten more. It's become more of a problem, the phones. What do you think? That, sorry, finish your thought. I have a question.
I was just going to say, I like that it's getting a little more attention from the bigger DJs, that they do want to see a little more crowd involvement. I love to see it, and because that's what nightlife is. So, I feel like that's what nightlife is. People are going there to let loose, blow off some steam. Maybe you had a long week and like you want to go hear music that you really like and you want to go dance, but maybe that's not the overarching thought anymore.
If the big artists are saying, hey guys, I would love when you guys come to my shows and videotape, but I want you to enjoy the moment more, maybe that would help, So if more people are talking about this, it becomes a thing where people who go to shows are like, well, this artist just put out a video saying like he hates when everybody puts their phones up. So like put your phone down kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see more of that.
Yeah. I know in the dead community, like you sparingly record at a show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, but that's a community thing. It's community known. So maybe you're right about that. Maybe like, if it becomes more of a community thing, then maybe it's
like if the people who are raving really hard are, kind of telling their friends like, bro, don't put your phone up there when, like this is like, we're here to dance. We're not here to put your phone up. When it becomes like a little bit of a peer pressure and it's sort of looked down upon in the community, then less people are going to do it at the shows and they're going to enjoy it more. So it's like a top-down thing where the artists start saying it, then the hardcore fans start saying it, and it trickles down to like the average, whatever, like popping into a show type of person.
I've been to shows that are not house music shows that people are like, yo, put your fucking phone down. It's like, oh man. Well, hostile real funny. Quick.
Well, what do you think about, I think we're seeing, in response to this, we're seeing a lot more venues and a lot more artists have shows where you're not allowed to have a phone, where they either take your phone or they put something over the camera to keep you or, help prohibit you from using your phone during the show.
I think that this is becoming more commonplace. This has been something that's been happening since Dave Chappelle started doing this many, many years ago for his stand-up, right? I think that was like the real big one. That was like the originator of you got to lock your phone away. And I think because it's been just known and talked about for so long that like if that's the artist or if that's the venue's choice, then I'm all for it, right? Because at the end of the day, it is their art and it is their performance that they're putting out there, and if they don't want it recorded or if they want you to consume it in a certain way, then I think that should be respected. But I understand the pushback of not having your phone on you for an extended period of time. I like what they're doing in the for the Jonathan Peters party in New York City for Halloween, that they have the camera covers, so you could still use your phone.
Right,
your camera's just covered. I like that because I understand it. Like if you have kids or other responsibilities that you need to tend to, and you need your phone. I mean, we do live in an age where we are expected to pick up our phone constantly. Maybe it's not great if you have it like locked away in a bag for 6 hours at a time. Like that's probably
I think people would be less interested in that, but I think the phone, like the camera cover, makes complete sense.
Yeah,
like I would love playing parties like that. Now, on the other side of that, in an era where going viral and having your videos posted everywhere and the importance of social media, do you think artists, is it a catch-22 where like artists sort of want it? they want the cameras out because they want to capture the moment so that it goes viral, so that they become more popular and they sell more tickets.
To be able to ask somebody to cover their camera or put their phone away, you should be beyond viral. Like your name should be beyond viral. Like virality doesn't matter if virality doesn't matter if somebody recorded a video at that show, because you're already famous.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of venues in New York City right now that they're putting local DJs on that aren't allowing customers to have phones or cameras working.
Yeah, like that. In those instances, I'm not sure it matters as much, because it's not going to be a situation where every single person standing there recording. I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about those videos of people. You can't find anyone dancing. That's the ones we're talking about.
Has their phone up.
Every person. There's like 3 specific ones, right? It's all the ones we talked about. It's the Kai Music one. It's the oh my gosh, it's like the Tale of Us guys, right?
The Enma guys.
The Emma guys, and I can't think of the third one. But anyways, like it's those ones that like it's shocking to see it. It's not the ones where like, okay, there's 100 phones up out of 1,000 people. Sure, it's 10%, but like, I can get over that. When there's nobody dancing, that's a different thing. Like you have to lock your phone away at that point. I think a New York City club with a local DJ, I don't know. I think that's a little extreme.
Yeah, but do you think it helps with more people being more
present?
Yeah, being more present and being more in the moment, and maybe having more of an inclination to actually dance?
I think if it's a certain kind of party, yeah, I do. I think. See, I think of this as like more like an underground party, something that's like really like focused on really like having like a like you're trying to move a room like in a, I don't know. I'm thinking
more mainstream. Like I'm thinking like at Birch and Hoboken, the place I just played this past Saturday. Like, what if nobody had their phones? What would people be doing? Would they be more engaged? Would they be dancing more? Would they be jumping around more? Would they be singing more? I don't know. I would say probably they would be, but would they be?
Or would they have massive anxiety because they don't have their phone?
That massive. Could be too. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
You're going to have a room full of, you're going to be giving out antidepressants because it's, I mean, that's now a natural thing. Like I don't have my phone on me right now. But I know exactly where it is in the other room. And there's probably a sense of stress that naturally now comes along with that. There's been plenty of studies done that is the truth. Once you take somebody's phone away, their stress level goes up exponentially because you're just so used to it. It's become such a piece of you. So like if you take that away in an environment where I don't really know the DJ, I don't really know why I'm there, I kind of want to know my options about going maybe to the next place, I don't think that's a recipe for disaster in my opinion.
What if maybe for a ticketed event, it makes sense, right? Like someone's committing to going to a place because you're buying a ticket. It's probably not cheap, right? And you're committing to being in that place for X amount of hours. So maybe you're also just committing to not having your phone for that amount of time as well.
100%. 100%. Like, so I went to a show with my cousin. And we got we were walking to the venue. We were staying at a hotel. We were walking. We got about a mile away. He's like, I don't have my phone. He's like, yeah, but I don't really care. He's like, I know I'm going to the show. I'm going to be with you. We're going to walk there. I'm going to walk back. He's like, I really don't need it. And if an emergency happens, somebody will reach out to you. Right. Yeah. And in that instance, like he really just didn't care. Like he was just stress-free about it. But he was committed to a 4-hour show. Right.
Yeah.
And that was going to be it.
He probably had a great time not having to worry about his phone for 1 second.
Yeah. He got he got banged up. It was a great time. But yeah, I think that's a great point that you make. If it's a ticketed event and you know what you're getting into and you're committed, and you've committed your time and your money, then
right. Because you're staying around for the headliner anyway.
It's an easy way to disconnect.
So maybe that's just the easy way for artists and people to start sort of doing this is make that a thing, make that a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
It's interesting. I guess time will tell here in the long term what's going to happen with this, but I think we've sort of reached a tipping point where something's got to give, right? When the artists are complaining, we're seeing it. Something's got to give. Like something's gonna turn for the better, I would hope.
It's for, I try to look at this from both ends. It's for the better for us, the DJ, let's say, from, that's what I mean by us, not like literally you and I at shows. But like, is this what people want? Like, is this what they want to do? And if that's what they want to do, that's what you got to let them do.
I mean, it is. That's what they're doing.
Does it suck? It absolutely sucks. From
I was gonna say something, but it's gonna take us down a rabbit hole, and like,
go ahead. We'll make it a short rabbit hole.
So, streamers, Twitch streamers, and people just getting followed around, living their life, right? Like, that's such a mainstream thing and popular thing right now that I think people look at that and see how popular certain people like Kai Cenat and, I don't know, name any other big streamer, and they make a ton of money. They've become super, super famous. They have all these celebrities on their stream, and like, they look at them recording themselves like they are sort of following in that streamer path, you know? Like, I got to record everything I'm doing because that's what Kai Cenat does.
Yeah. We have them all over, obviously, in a much smaller capacity down here at Disney. And like, I was on somebody's stream last night on accident, like eating in the background. And my buddy who I was with is like, let's jump on his stream. It's like, wow, there we are. I'm just standing there eating. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But it's all over. And these people are just like recording, just walking around the park. And it's like, this is so weird to me. But you go on the stream, like, there's thousands of people watching.
Yeah.
This person just walk around Epcot. It's like so strange. But it's how younger people consume. I always say, I consume 90% of my TV on YouTube. And that's where a lot of this lives. So I can't knock it too hard because it's working somewhere.
Right.
It's working in a lot of places, making people a lot of money. But there's a time and a place, I think, with shows. I think it's like that's a different conversation and argument altogether when it's a show and not just you walking around through regular life. Because there's an artist involved that demands respect.
The thought just popped to my head, so I figured I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. All right. I mean, we've talked the whole episode about this one topic. We sort of knew that it was gonna be a long one because it is something that's happening right now in our world, and it's a major thing, and I think it was important to talk about and kind of work through. And we don't have the answers, and we don't know what the right thing to do or not do is. So I think that's part of it too, is it's a little ambiguous,
Yeah, I'd like to hear a lot of other people's perspectives because I'm sure there's a million other things that we haven't thought about or talked about that other people can input into this conversation that, might get us on your side of it or have us understand what your perspective is. And maybe we're just not seeing something that other people are.
Yeah. All right. So I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast earlier today, and he brought up something that a question that he asks himself when he's working on a new project or working on any project. And the question is, what would it look like if this were easy? And it was one of those where like a light bulb went off over my head. I immediately sent Get Down an email like, I love this. We sort of do this and we've been doing this lately, but I think it was something we wanted to share with you guys because in a world of having to put out all this content, all this music, all these different things that are important, I think it's extremely, extremely beneficial for us to have this attitude of how can I do this simply? How can I make this as easy as possible on me, right? What tools or apps or websites can I put in place that are going to help me to make this easier? And I challenge all of you guys to ask yourself that question when you're working on something, even music, right? Like, do I need to add this eighth layer of hi-hats? Do I need to? Like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, just ask this question to yourselves, and any project you're working on, like, how can I make this as easy as possible? Because if it's easy, you're going to be more likely to want to work on it and to want to get it out and get it done. And the quicker you get it done, the quicker you can move on to the next project or the next track or the next whatever it is. And it doesn't mean to not do a great job, you know? It just means to simplify it, make it easier. I think we can all do better in our businesses if we have this mind state.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight maybe something that we've implemented in our business that has made our life easier and our business easier and streamline some things. This way that the listeners can understand kind of, where we're coming from and whether it's a process, whether it's a website or an app. And I mean, what do we do? What's the number one thing that we do at Get Down DJ Group, right?
Book DJs.
We book DJs, right? And I remember coming over to your place and we'd sit there and I'd have my notebook open, which I still use my notebook to an extent because I'm an old soul like that. And we'd write all the things down and we'd write everybody's availability down and then write down everybody's dates from there in the notebook. And then after we did that, I kind of forgot that this was the process until I'm
it was
talking
bad.
this out right now. But we also didn't have 60 DJs that we were booking.
True.
It was more like 10, right? So we'd write everybody's dates of the availability down. We'd write down the venues. We'd plug everybody's dates in, and then we go and text them.
Yeah, each person their monthly schedule, right?
Individually.
I bet you our process back then took us as much time as it does now to book 6x the amount of gigs.
We probably had 5 venues and 10 DJs. If I had to guess, that's probably where we were at. Judging by Aldez's text to you and I with the lineup that we were hyped about from 7 years ago, whatever it was. And now it's 26 venues and 55 DJs, something like that, like in that area. And I'm sure you're probably right that it took longer then. So we use a scheduling software, just like if you worked in a restaurant or you worked in
retail,
like you put in your availability and schedule. We do the scheduling based off the availability, and then once we send that out, you automatically get a text and an email, and we don't have to do anything. The program does all of that, right?
Right.
And
then, the amount of time that we spend is solely based on which DJs are the best fit for which venues.
Right.
And then all the other stuff, the app does,
Right. All the back end stuff the app takes care of. And then if there's a drift, somebody drops a shift, which we talked extensively about last episode, we get a notification, and then we can open that shift up to our other DJs, and then those guys can request the shift, right?
Yeah.
And this is all eliminating text messaging or phone calls that don't need to be had because it's all automated to an extent. And then where we want to have our human hands on it, we can have them on, right? In all those important decision-making processes, the stuff that we need to be involved in, the stuff that we don't need to be involved in, we're not involved in.
Right.
And I think that's a huge thing to think about when you're doing anything just in your business, right? What do I need to be involved in and what can I automate?
Right. What's most important? What am I getting paid to do?
Right.
How do I focus on that part of the job or the task?
I'm getting paid to DJ. Okay, I got to book my gigs. What's the easiest way to book my gigs, right? I'm getting paid to produce music, right? That's number 2. How am I fitting making music into my schedule? Right? There's no way to automate that, really. So, like, how am I fitting? What I hear from everybody the most is I didn't have enough time to produce this quarter, this half, And so that's going to be your next Most important thing. Where am I going to fit production in? And then whatever else comes after
I
that.
think a good exercise would be when you have a project, right? Maybe it's making an original track. Maybe it's putting out a mix, let's say. Write out every single step in that process from coming up with the idea all the way to release day and all the things that you do on release day. Write it out in a step by step. These are all the things that need to be done in order for this mix to come out. I would then obviously highlight the ones that you, the artist, 1000% have to do. Pick the songs, put the track list, put the order of the tracks together. But like, then you can go through that list and pick the things that maybe you can pay someone else to do, right? Instead of me sitting here for 1 hour trying to make a Cream and Friends artwork, I can pay 9 because he does an amazing job. He gets it back to me in 24 hours, and it saves me all this other time to focus on the stuff that's more important that I need to spend my time on in the process of putting out my Cream and Friends. So maybe it's paying a graphic designer. Maybe it's even paying someone to create the mix for you if that's not something, if you've made a million mixes, right? Like, but go through that list and start to highlight some of the things that you can allocate. If you have a team, I mean, most people don't have a team that are probably listening to this, but if you have a VA or you have anyone that you work with, how can you allocate certain things to that person to take those responsibilities off of your plate so that then you could focus on the most important thing?
Yeah.
So I think for the regular person listening, it's who can I pay or how can I offload a certain responsibility that I don't need to be doing. It doesn't make sense for me to be doing, or I don't have the skills to be doing.
What do you think the biggest pain points for a growing DJ is? Like
For a growing DJ?
For somebody that's like trying, that's trying to come up, and you're just like a growing local DJ, and you're trying to elevate to that next level. What is going to do that outside of your music, right?
I think just coming up with a content plan, and I don't necessarily mean like posting on social media, but just coming out with, all right, this week I'm going to create a mix. This week I'm going to put out 2 edits. This week I'm going to put out a Spotify playlist, and just sort of organizing that and coming up with a plan on how all of that's going to happen. Because if you're just waking up and saying, all right, well, it's Tuesday, what am I doing today? Like, you're probably not going to be that successful.
Yeah, in our end of year conversations, those are always the 2 top things. Number 1 is I didn't produce enough. Number 2 is I didn't put out enough content. And if you're producing more, you're going to have more content to put out, right? One hand washes the other. So creating these plans is essential.
I will give you a personal situation, right? Creating and putting out content is hard for me. I don't particularly like to do it. Creating it, I like doing it. But like when it comes to social media stuff, I hate putting reels out together. I hate finding the right videos. I don't like doing it. So many times what I'll do is I'll pay for someone to collect content for me at a show, and then I'll pay for someone to take that content and create 3 or 4 reels for me. Again, number 1, because they're going to do a better job than I'm going to do and it's going to take 5 hours of my time and allow me to focus on something else. So a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about does cost money, but guys, like, if you're a business, I say this all the time. If you're not willing to invest in your business to help your business grow, you're not going to be successful. So be willing to spend money on a graphic designer. Be willing to spend money on someone to help you create reels if that's something that you need and you don't have the skills to do.
It's good advice.
It is what it is. I look at it like, all right, I just got paid X amount of dollars for this show. Well, this much money of that show is going towards content for this week.
Yeah.
And that, I think if you start thinking about it like that, like, all right, I'm getting paid this much money. I'm going to spend 100 of that to go towards the person creating content for the next 3 weeks for me. Like, that's a steal if you ask me. For $100 to get 3 reels or whatever for 3 weeks, even.
Well worth it. I like it.
So tomorrow or next week or whenever you're working on a project, ask yourself, what would it look like if this were easy? How can I make this easier? How can I make this simpler? I'm going to do it for sure.
I like it. because it's a great question to ask. It's a great exercise, and it will definitely make your life easier. It's going to make our lives easier just thinking from this perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, and you and I have implemented it over the last couple years here, and it's helped us greatly.
We have, but there's always room for improvement.
For sure. There's always ways to streamline, right?
Yeah, just got to get Slav on board. I know he's not listening.
All right, I'm about to go watch the Yankee game. We got game 3 happening right now.
I'm missing my workout today, probably, to watch the Yankee game.
Wow.
So,
all right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace.